Even one day later, the brutality is still so hard to comprehend. It's no wonder veteran detectives and longtime neighbors are still struggling with their emotions.
Why would a 19-year-old college student suddenly and for no apparent reason assault and stab a couple who were sitting in their garage, then bite the victim's flesh? We have live team coverage of the killings of John Stevens and his wife, Michelle Mishkan. We begin with News Channel 5's John Shainman, who sat down with the Martin County Sheriff to get the latest on the investigation.
Autopsy reports that were released today. Both victims, John Stevens and Michelle Mishkan, both suffered severe trauma, injuries that were non-survivable, according to the medical examiner. Now, the question as to why 19-year-old Austin Haroof may have killed them, well, it might not be answered anytime soon, if ever.
With a suspect in custody, Martin County Sheriff William Snyder says his investigation moves into what he calls the victimology phase, the study of the victims and the suspect.
So we'll be looking at the suspect's friends, relatives, neighbors. We'll look into social media. We want to know everything we can about our suspect.
Results of blood, hair, and DNA samples from Austin Haroof should be back from the state crime lab in 1 to 3 weeks. As to what was going on in the suspect's mind, a report from Jupiter Police may shed some light. Haroof's mother called police just before midnight Monday. She said Austin had suddenly left Duffy's restaurant earlier that evening after an argument with his father. In the report, she said Austin had been acting strange over the past week, saying things like he had superpowers. She wasn't concerned, though, about him being in immediate danger to himself or others. Investigators say after leaving the restaurant, Haroof walked several miles back towards his father's home, but he stopped one street short and ended up at the home of John Stevens and Michelle Mishkan.
We had to get the flesh out of his teeth.
Seriously?
Oh, yeah. There's a mouthful of flesh.
I asked the sheriff to follow up on a comment he made Tuesday that this was the most violent crime scene he'd ever witnessed, especially with the recent tragedy of Tricia Todd, whose partial remains were found buried in a nature preserve, still fresh in many people's minds.
Trying to compare cases is very difficult. The level of violence in this case was astonishing because it occurred over a period of time, and it was an ongoing act of brutality, as opposed to the Todd case, which was brutality but after death.
We heard last night from the Haroof's family attorney asking the question, why had Haroof's parents not been allowed to see their son in the hospital? Now, tonight we've learned that that attorney is no longer on this case. Still, I have the response from the sheriff. That's coming up all new at 6 o'clock. We're live at the Martin County Sheriff's Office. John Shainman, WPTV News Channel 5.